In his personified title, Talking Money, the Kenyan author, prolific writer, and journalist Staneley Gazemba of Kenya scathingly documents the chaotic flow of Mukidanyi's heated scuffle with his two brothers Ngoseiwe and Agoya, who almost come to blows over the sale of his portion of their ancestral land. He chases them away, shouting that he doesn't need anyone's help. His notorious incorrigibility and unquenchably high temper work against him when he fails to heed the counsel of his wife and flogs her with a hippo-hide whip, thus brewing contempt and sarcasm in the same measure from her. As the story continues, the buyer, Mr. Gallo, arrives in his four-wheel drive. They inspect the land by the river and he attests to how fertile and fine the land is. The wealthy man quickly accepts the offer of $500,000 without a tussle, much to Mukidanyi's surprise, for he had expected haggling until he got at least half the figure he had mentioned. When Gallo's accomplice instructs Mukidanyi to sign the papers, he is dumbstruck, as he has to use his thumb later on. He also passes on counting the money in the briefcase, because early in his life, his father Kizungu had attempted to take him to school, but he had escaped with the marshes to roast stolen maize and play Simbi. He is so gripped with anxiety and excitement about the money that he hardly sleeps at night until at dawn, when evil voices confront him. The overwhelming fear that ensues possesses him and makes him return the money to Gauss. At the same time, he speeds away from the brick house at neck-breaking speed, his injuries notwithstanding. Now, in this particular story, Staneley Gazemba highlights a number of themes. Number one, the consequences of action. Number two, family conflicts or the role of family. Number three, education and its importance. Number four, morality. He also talks about coexistence. He talks about the power of guilt and obsession with money. It's also evident that he looks at the styles like sarcasm, local dialect, dialogue, and flashback. Now, of key importance is the role of superstition. This theme of superstition takes center stage, but is mentioned in two main sections. First of all, when Mukidanyi goes back to the house, the wife talks to him, but he doesn't listen. The wife asks him, "You know that hardly anyone in this village does business with the gallows? Their money is not good. We don't know where they get it from. You should not turn a deaf ear to what everyone tells you." In this reference, Gazemba is trying to refer to how people in the society view the gallows. He says that they don't know where the money comes from, and yet they say that the money is not good. So such a stereotypic misconception leads to superstition, hence affecting Mukidanyi later on when he receives money from the gallows. Now, again on page 54 of the same story, when the voices begin to speak under the bed, the wife talks to Mukidanyi. He tells him, "I will be damned by those who are certainly Viganda spirit speaking. I have no doubt in my mind about it. I have heard of these things before, but today was really my first encounter with them." Now, it is evident that Mukidanyi's wife has only heard of the story. She has no evidence about them and claims that's the first time. So such superstitions affect the way people behave. Mukidanyi is obsessed with obtaining and retaining money. And in this capacity, He remembers that he fails to consult his family, and therefore he's haunted in the mind. He's haunted by the thoughts that he did not consider sharing the idea and listening to the counsel from his brothers, and therefore the spirits have come to harm him. Again, there's an aspect of satire. The theme of obsession with money also plays out in a great way. One, Mukidanyi disagrees with his two brothers, and therefore, after disagreeing with Ngoseiwe, he chases them away because he intends to have the money. And number two, when the gallows have given him money, the book says that long after the two visitors had climbed in their car and left, Mukidanyi sat there under the Msunzi tree, clasping the black briefcase in his lap, his gaze fixed on a point in the distant hill, trained on an object in the periphery that only he could see. And then it occurred to him that he was holding money, lots of it, in his lap. He stood up and rushed into the house, his heart pumping in his chest, dry throat, craving a drink of water. But he didn't even eat anything for supper that evening. Why so? Because he is obsessed with the money, so much that he does not eat at night. And two, after he has gone to bed, he does not even talk to the wife. Why? He is obsessed with the money. And to make things worse, he has chained the briefcase to the bedpost and locked it using a padlock, and he cannot sleep. Later on in the night, when he calls the wife and asks if it's already morning, but the wife tells him that no, it's not yet morning. And the wife is wondering if he has money now, people cannot sleep. He's wondering what's happening, and there's no sleep in his eyes because he's obsessed about the money. And again, through this, we see another superstition when Mukidanyi's wife tells him, unless you're dreaming, Mukidanyi. But this seems like the middle of the night to me, the hour for witches. So according to them, they believe when midnight reaches, it's time for witches to do their business. Now, family conflicts are evident at the beginning of this story when Mukidanyi disagrees with his two brothers, and they almost beat each other. And Mukidanyi says he doesn't need anyone's help. Of course, that is satire, because later on it is revealed he hopes and wishes that his brothers were there to help him sign and take care of the paper business. But again, the conflict escalates when Mukidanyi reaches into the Jamvi ceiling where he kept a hippo hide whip and beats the woman. The woman later on, who is whimpering in the small hours of the night because she has been beaten. The conflict has escalated until she has been caned with a whip because she's trying to talk the husband out of selling the land that belongs to the ancestors. However, ironically, later on when the voices begin to speak, the wife chases him out and throws the briefcase out. So the violence turns back to him. The hunter becomes the hunted. Now, through a flashback, it is revealed that Mukidanyi's father Kizungu had attempted to take him to the local school, but he had jumped through the window and dashed across the yard, hopping over the school hedge and away into the marshes down by the river, where he passed his day roasting maize they had stolen from somebody's farm and playing Simbi. So through this flashback, it's revealed how the importance of school plays out in the life of someone later on. When he's given the papers to sign, Mukidanyi is dumbstruck because he did not learn these things from school. Therefore, he wishes to have his brothers, yet he had said earlier on that he doesn't need them. A number of dialogues are used in this particular story to break the monotony of narration because it's a tense story that involves deep feelings that affects the reader. Now, dialogue is also used to reveal character traits, to develop themes and characters, and also it's used for catharsis, for the cathartic release as the readers go through the book, between the dialogue between Ngoseiwe and Mukidanyi, the dialogue between Mukidanyi and his wife. And also it brings out the humor in the story when the wife sarcastically refers to him as big man, asking him to go and, of course, encounter and react to what the voices are talking about. Now, local dialect has been used majorly in this book to help us place the setting of this book as in Western Kenya, because we look at words like Ketenge, Karibu Sana, Bwana, local dialect, Jinga Sana, Swahili, Ndugu, Swahili words. And then we have things like Simbi from the Western section. We have Msunzi tree, we have Banda, we have Boma, and there are many more words like Magu that are of the Western origin, Nyasai Gui. These ones help us to place the story from the Western Kenya. Now, the main style that encompasses this book is satire. Staneley Gazemba is a master satirist, and he shows us how decisions have consequences, and that is how satire is discussed in this book. First of all, Mukidanyi, I'll show you the decision or choice and then the consequence that reveals the satire. First of all, he chases away his brothers, claiming he doesn't need them, but in page 52, he's lonely, and when he needs to sign, he needs his brothers. That satirizes the human action where people are puffed up by their own beliefs of self-sufficiency, and they do not see that others are important. Number two, he beats his wife, and this makes her develop a sarcastic attitude towards him. And when he's accosted by the voices in page 54, she sarcastically scolds him to face them as a big man. And again, when she sends him out of the house in page 55, and when he has mental torture. Now, it is sarcastic how his love for money has driven him to see figures at night. Around him as he walks, the night swarms with unseen creatures, their formless bodies squirming in and out of his way as if they meant to entangle him in their many scary octopus arms. Occasionally he tripped and he put his palm to the ground to right himself, struggling to keep the heavy briefcase in his grasp. He felt a slick tendril snacking out of the darkness and coiling around his ankle, tightening in a blood-sucker's grip. In the scary moment in which he wrestled with the unseen demon, he felt the hold tighten, the razor edge biting into his flesh, but without drawing blood, which means this was a mental torture in page 55. And again, the love for money, he chooses to love money, and in page 52, his voice needs water. He does not even eat at night. In page 53, he cannot sleep and wakes up his wife to confirm if downtime is there so he can take the money to the poster. And lastly, page 49 to 50, he disagrees with his brothers just because he loves money. And lastly, he escapes from school, page 51 to 52, and therefore doesn't know how to handle things that need him, that he could have learned in the school setup. Therefore, this satirical story that is a great personification, Talking Money, is a story that satirizes what happens in the society, how the individuals who love money so much that it blinds them, it even leads them to self-importance. It also gives them a lot of anger, so that they want just what they want. People who feel that their ideas are the best. And therefore Gazemba criticizes how such people behave in the society. Thanks for your time, and always remember to subscribe to Sarah Willie YouTube channel to get the most awesome analysis of these set books. For today, enough said. Thanks for your time.